The establishment response to the Democratic debate has been nothing short of pathetic. So Bernie Sanders won according to literally every single immediate poll, and without fail, press outlets had headlines that declared Hillary Clinton the winner. Now, we discussed that yesterday, and in the midst of that conversation, I tried to make clear that what we're talking about here is not an overt conspiracy, but more of a systemic problem with the establishment media. And the way it works is there's this thing called the Overton window, which is basically the spectrum of thought that's allowed in the mainstream. And you always have the establishment media networks hiring people that fall within the spectrum of acceptable opinion. So it just so happens that everybody who's hired by these different companies, they already have a bias towards people like Hillary, and they just read into the debates whatever the hell they want to see, and they all said Hillary won, even though the people said Bernie Sanders won. So yesterday, we didn't put on our tinfoil hats. I was just describing the implicit biases that are present in the mainstream media. Well, today, we might have to reach for those tinfoil hats. Now, you guys know I'm not a formal conspiracy guy. I don't know if there's a single formal conspiracy that I believe in outside of the ones that are just proven that we know of now. I mean, it used to be considered a conspiracy that the U.S. overthrew the Iranian government in 1953, and then the CIA declassified those documents recently, and we found out, of course, we were involved in that. And there's other things, the Tuskegee experiments, Operation Northwoods. Those are things that used to be considered, conspiracy, but now we know that it's just true. Those things happened. So what I mean by I'm usually not on board with formal conspiracies is that I don't think there's this secret cabal of elites in a small group that meet together every few weeks or every year or something like that, and they plan the way everything's going to work. No, again, the system is much more based on implicit biases than just an overt smoke-filled back room where they're calling the shots. Except in this case where there might actually be a smoke-filled back room. So, 3 things have happened since the debate that I don't think you can explain without invoking some kind of an overt conspiracy. So first, the poll on CNN.com that was up directly after the debate, it had Bernie absolutely crushing Hillary. He had like over 80% of the vote. And there may have even been a few polls, because one showed it's Bernie with 75% winning, the other one was over 80%. It was either different polls or people just took a screenshot of it at different times and sent it to me. But here's the thing. They took it down. Now, they took it down, and then they were running the articles and had the massive headlines about how Hillary won. I mean, some places like Slate, Time, one of them had, or it may have even been CNN, Hillary's clean sweep, something like that. So, still, we're not in tinfoil hat territory yet, but here's the second thing. They replaced the poll, which had Bernie winning by a landslide, with this. For everybody listening on the live show, this is some sort of political prediction calculator, and it's not a poll. It's just not a poll, but it misleadingly looks like a poll. So they replace an actual poll where Bernie Sanders is crushing it, and they replace it with this, which is not a poll, but it makes it look like it's a poll, and it shows Hillary Clinton winning. And then, here's the third thing, and this is where I pound my gavel. According to Media Equalizer, CNN.com is actively deleting pro-Bernie Sanders comments. And many people are reporting this. I mean, here's one comment right here. A guy named Christopher Warburton says, quote, CNN keeps deleting my comment off of their site. Please copy and paste this and post it all over their debate coverage. Time Warner Inc. owns CNN. Time Warner Inc. is Hillary's 7th biggest financial supporter. CNN is posting all over that Hillary won the debate. CNN's own polls show that 81% of the viewers think Bernie won. CNN will not even post the results of their own poll. If this isn't some Orwellian 1984 crap, I don't know what is. We need to show corporations that we're not taking the manipulation anymore. And then it says hashtag Bernie 2016, hashtag confront CNN, Dem debate, CNN is corrupt. So they deleted this repeatedly, and they've deleted other pro-Bernie Sanders comments repeatedly. No, we're at the point where there literally may have been a phone call from a top Hillary campaign person, top Hillary campaign advisor, who called some top guy at CNN and said, here's the deal. You're going to make it look like on your website Hillary won, and you're going to flood the internet with articles saying Hillary won, and we don't care what the reality is. We are going to override that and drive the narrative in the direction of Hillary Clinton. That's the point that we're at right now. Now, understand, I could be wrong, and it could just be the usual, which we talk about all the time, which is the implicit biases of the media and all their different issues, whether it's a bias towards the establishment, a bias towards neutrality, bias towards false equivalence, as we often talk about between the Democrats and Republicans. This could just be one of your run-of-the-mill biases. But the way it's unfolding, it really does look like you have people in the mainstream media flat out in cahoots with the Clinton campaign. Just flat out in cahoots. So, everybody should be aware of this, man. Everybody should be aware of this, because it's possible that this doesn't have that much of an effect, or it has a backlash effect, and more people end up supporting Bernie as a result of it. But it's also possible that this drives the narrative in a way that the narrative was driven back when it was Al Gore versus George W. Bush. Al Gore won the debate, but the media had such low standards for George Bush that when he strung together a coherent sentence, they kept saying Bush won, and that affected public opinion of it. Palin versus Biden, where Palin was able to string together a sentence, and they said, she won because of that, even though Biden obviously crushed her, and then that drove the narrative. Now, obviously, in that case, it worked out that Obama and Biden won, but it was misleading when the media kept acting like Sarah Palin is a serious person when she's not a serious person. And bottom line is, they weren't giving facts. They weren't being honest. They were trying to say Palin did better than she did. But this case, it's much more than that here, because according to all of the instant polls, Bernie Sanders destroyed in that debate. But all of the articles say Hillary destroyed, and then you're deleting Bernie comments and you're replacing polls with nonsense things, prediction things that show Hillary winning. It doesn't add up unless there's an overt bias in favor of Hillary Clinton. Guys, what we need to try to take away from this here is people who really care about anti-establishment candidates, whether it's somebody like Larry Lessig or it's somebody like Bernie Sanders, you got to double down. You got to move forward. You got to push hard. I mean, I every time I cover a positive story on Bernie Sanders, as I mentioned to you guys before, I worry that people will get the wrong impression and they won't donate to his campaign. They won't spread the word. They won't do the right thing because they'll get complacent and they'll go, well, he's doing all right, so leave it at that. No, look at what you're up against. You're up against the establishment and big money all over the place. I mean, Bernie Sanders is not taking money from big donors. Hillary Clinton is taking a tremendous amount of money from big donors. She's a giant sellout. Naturally, the elites in the system are going to want her to win, and they're going to push for it. They're not going to take this laying down. They're not going to take some populist, democratic socialist getting into power laying down. So we got to be aggressive. We got to fight through this. Again, you guys know I'm really not a formal conspiracy guy in many instances, but this is really, really starting to look like one.